in.
Under salary summary, the budget offsets go from 335,000 to 420,000. What accounts for the additional budget offsets?
What are you on, Mel?
Page 2.
Okay.
The first line, teachers.
Yep.
You see the budget offsets for FY12 are 335, and for FY13, 420.
Yes. There is some good news. While we do see a decrease in ARA funds, we are projecting an increase in some of our revolving funds. There's been a growth in the pre-K program. The pre-K program, of course, the committee knows is a program that is designed for younger children who are in need of some special education services. We are allowed to combine within that program so-called typical children at a tuition rate. So we are increasing the pre-K program by a fairly significant amount this year, which explains additional revolving funds that we can use to offset teacher budget.
Excellent. The next line, 7, same page, inclusion specialist paras. This is where we're taking the big hit with the ARA funds.
Yes.
And at the same time, we're increasing the budget by $92,000. So essentially, we have a $431,000 increase in that budget.
Yes.
Kathy, is this where the new personnel is being added, the inclusion specialists?
We have had to provide some additional paraprofessionals to support some students that have moved into our district with individual education program plans that require that level of assistance.
And are we,
And we've
can
had
we
to-
say whether we are saving money by being able to adequately service these students in the district and also avoid sending them out of district, or are these students that would be in the district anyway?
Most of the students that require a high level of assistance in the form of a paraprofessional are students that, if we're not being appropriately serviced in district, would be in outside placements.
Okay.
That would be considerably more costly.
That's my
And
question.
just to clarify what Mel said, that obviously we are increasing because of the two the positions, but I think what you were saying, Mel, is that the ARA funds that Kyle talked about, at least over 400,000 was allocated to this particular line.
339 was allocated
339 to
here.
this line. Okay,
Right.
right.
So
okay, just-
plus that plus the 92,000
90,000,
increase gives
right.
us a $431,000
Right, so-
increase that the district,
You're exactly
that we
right.
have to support with town funds.
And again, that's that 339,000 you saw that we had last year. We don't have this year. That's how we spent it, so.
I think I had one other question, but I think Carl already answered this. On page 3, athletics, there's a $50,000 increase. That's the 50,000 we already talked about,
Yes,
correct?
it is. Thank you.
Just my final comment, not my final comment, because we've been talking about the budget for a long time. This isn't affordable, and we have a lot of work to do.
Okay, who else? Questions, comments?
Mel asked one of my questions, but I still have the same question about substitute teachers.
What page you on, Karen?
Salary summary.
2.
There's a couple different places where I'm
Go ahead.
confused about this. So it seems to me the budget isn't really changing for the substitute teachers, and I'm wondering why that is, because we've had so many people go out on leave this year for maternity leave, and now we're sort of it's the same. So I just want a clarification as to why that is.
Yes. You know, substitute teachers is one of the areas in the budget that you just do your best estimate. You know, you don't have any data to support it. FY11, there was a huge increase in substitute teachers, as you know, based on maternity leaves. It looks as though this present year, FY12, is going to be a little bit lower. So I would say my best estimate for substitute teachers for next year will be that it will be about the same as this year, which is about $40,000 to $50,000 less than last year. It's just the best estimate.
And this is just based on past experience. That's about all you can go on.
I'm hoping last
Just
year
wanted
was a
to
blip,
clarify.
but Karen, you know, I could be proven wrong on this. It's just a best estimate.
Fine with me, I just wanted to clarify. Mel asked my question about the paraprofessionals.
Karen, can I follow up on that, though,
Yeah,
on
go
that
ahead.
substitute teacher thing? The 313 is what we budgeted, but we're gonna spend more than that this year, correct?
No, I don't believe so.
Because you said you expected 50,000 less for next year, but you're budgeting 1,000 less. So is that an area we can possibly cut, is my question?
as time goes on, we might be able to.
It's kind of like snow and ice melt, to be honest with you, though. You
Right.
have to be careful with that, because if you under budget it
You have to find
by a
somewhere
lot, you're
else.
gonna have to find it somewhere along the
Right.
line.
We're projecting this present year, which is FY '12, to be less than what last year was, just based on the number of teachers.
Oh, I
who-
see what you're saying. So, okay, I got you. Okay. But that's an area we can possibly look at.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But I remember maybe 3 years ago, I think we were in the $200,000
Oh,
range
yes,
for the
yes.
budget. Yeah.
Thanks, Karen.
I'm sorry, Karen, go ahead.
Two other things. So I noticed the information management and technology budget for the high school and middle school is, while small, is an increase in the elementary schools are not. It just reminded me why this is, because
What
I
page?
think I know what. So it's the top line item as you look at the detail for each individual
Oh.
school. And I just want to be reminded as to what's in that category so I can think this through. So right now I'm looking at 16 on the middle school. There's a 42% increase.
Okay.
It's slight, but, you know, and then there's no increase for Batchelder, Hood, or Little. It's actually a reduction. So I just not sure why that is, and I'm sure there's a very logical reason for it. Just,
When we talk about 42% increase, we're only talking about $1,900.
yeah, it's
from
not very
45
much.
to
I just want to know
64.
why that
Yeah.
is.
This is the expense side of the budget,
Okay.
and what we do in budget preparation is ask the principals to take a look at what's currently funded, which is a
Right.
level services budget, and move money around as they see appropriate, because this is considered the discretionary side of the funding.
Right.
And so if they have different initiatives taking place in the schools that require more funding in a particular line, like information management, you'll see a principal put a little more money there, and
Makes
another
sense.
principal put a little less, because they're not focusing on that particular line at this time.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And then on page, I guess it's 21, academic services, first page. There seems to be some kind of new copier. I
You know,
don't know what that is.
I should have focused a little bit more in this in the presentation. We used to have a page in the budget that we called system-wide instruction. And that page was present to provide support to the instructional leaders in the district. The purpose was that they would, and the total budget was in the $30,000 range for that. And they were the money was intended to be used to follow school committee goals and district goals. With the new instructional leadership team that superintendent has assembled, it was determined that those funds should be folded into the academic services budget so that the leadership would come from the director of curriculum. So to ensure that the funds would be expended in such a fashion that would be commensurate with district goals. So it looks as though academic services is getting a big increase, but it really is a merger and an elimination of another page in kind of an attempt to spend the money in a different fashion.
Okay, yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. I thought it was just a realignment, but it just sort of seemed like it was out of place, so
Yeah,
that
no,
helps.
thank you for mentioning that.
That's
Karen,
all I
anything
have.
else?
Nope.
Michael?
No, I mean, as the presentation was going along, I made a calculation. It looks like, preliminary. We'll lose 20 people off the bat.
Well,
No, that's just preliminary. I'm just saying,
again, that
I understand
is,
the budget.
but that's
but
all,
it's total employees
I
and-
think tonight what we wanted to do was to have a presentation of the budget. It's very difficult to determine how affordable the budget is until we know what the revenues are. Now, we do have a meeting in March with the finance planning team. Chairman Bob Messeri has asked all the members of the finance planning team to try to come with some suggestions or ideas regarding revenues. Until we know the revenues, we can't make a determination of whether this budget is balanced, unbalanced, or whatever. But I
No,
think
no,
it's
I-
really,
I understand. I'm just saying that, the expenses are flat. We're not going up.
right.
The only other place that you can actually make this a balanced budget.
But again,
Yeah.
you're missing my point.
there. And I understand
Until
that.
you know the
I
revenues,
understand.
we don't know whether or not this is even
We
a
have an
deficit.
idea of the revenues. It's not even close to this. We know that state aid is flat. We know that town revenues are pretty much flat, and that's why I say this is unaffordable. And it is.
Again,
It's
the
absolutely
purpose is-
unaffordable.
The purpose tonight was to present the budget that we asked the
Correct.
superintendent and the business manager to put together. I think before we get to that point, we need to have probably some workshops, another, obviously, selectmen's meeting, and to look at the revenues and compare the revenues to what we have here. But I know in the past, and I've been here for 12 years, the last 3 or 4 years, we have come into this process with a determination to go forward with a level services budget. There hasn't been a single year in those 3 or 4 years where we haven't looked at the preliminary budget and said, oh my God, what are we gonna do? We have a $500,000 deficit, $1 million deficit, and as we worked our way towards town meeting, again, based on changes in revenues, changes in philosophy, we've been able to make it work. So I understand where you guys are coming from. I just don't want to prematurely give the impression that we have a budget that is going to result in some type of.
I'd argue aggressively, I'd argue, and I don't think anybody can argue against me, that we've never had a situation where we lost $1.2 million in federal funds over 3 years that weren't made up. And that money has got to be made up,
Those
Jerry.
federal funds were revenues. Those were revenues that
Correct.
came in.
Correct, and they're not
at the
coming in
time.
anymore,
We
that's my
don't-
point.
We just don't know that at this point in time.
We
We know those,
we
we
know
know those
We know what a
specific-
number is. We have a number from finance planning team right now.
I'm on the finance plan.
Right, we have a number.
And that number is, again, a preliminary number.
Mel, that number is the same number that we had in August.
Yeah.
It's
and-
not
and
been
we're- and we're
adjusted up
working-
at all.
We're working on that. That's part of our objective.
Never gained $1 million
at our next- Well,
in
I
over.
have some recommendations that I'm gonna bring to the finance planning team, me, myself, that, you know, again, make the revenue picture a little bit better than what it appears to be right now. So, I just, again, I think it's premature to be talking about, you know, this budget being
Well,
out
no,
of
I
balance.
understand. I mean, I think preliminary, it looks, I mean, the 5% increase in salaries is a tremendous amount,
Well, that's the other thing that's an unknown
it's-
quantity at this time, or an unknown factor at this time, too,
right?
is the salary pool.
So, I think we can all acknowledge realistically that we're losing a lot of money from a source that was a one-time source. And I think that logically that follows is that we're gonna have a significant shortfall. Revenues aren't gonna change that dramatically, but we just don't know. I think what we have to do as a community and as a committee, we have to think about this is, okay, so we know that's coming, but also to recognize that we have to set those priorities. So we know that salary is the biggest driver of our costs. It eats up most of our budget. So this is not rocket science. But I think it's too early to say we're gonna, you know, make these changes in personnel. We're gonna make these changes in
Way too early. A
expenditure.
lot more thought has to go into that.
You know, I think as a committee, we need to discuss that, and I think it's premature to, I would say, alarm the community, because they've already been alarmed. They already know that we're gonna have to make some tough decisions. So now is the time for us to really think about, what does it cost to run our school district in a way that we think is financially responsible, but still meets most, not all, as Cliff reminds us all the time, this doesn't really meet our needs, but it gets there. So we have a starting point. This is the starting point. This helps us see what it really does cost us now to maintain what we have at a modified level.
And I'll say this, that $339,000 is a lot of money to lose on the revenue side. But it wasn't 1.2 million, it was only $339,000 last year, so it's only that much that we're losing coming forward to this year.
What I'd like to see, honestly, in the workshop is the kind of state mandated programs that we're required to perform, and that we're not being funded 100% or whatever they promised us.
We could
the
certainly
funding.
take a
Because
look
I
at
would say
that.
we start cutting those programs out, honestly. We write a nice letter to the state and say, sorry, you didn't give us the money.
can't do
we're
that.
outta here."
Can't do that, because
Then-
most of them are
and then
mandated.
The next move will be that they'll say, sorry, we're not sending you the 15%
Right.
we were going to send
Well,
you.
let them do that. I mean,
Well, we
have a
We'd
right,
be out of
we have a right to
business.
sue them too, to say,
We can-
you asked us to do this, and you said you would fund this.
We
go
could
ahead.
certainly,
Can't
we could
go
certainly
there.
take a look at those programs to see,
We-
at least as an explanation, why we're in the position we
Right,
are.
but we have an obligation
What
to
I'd like to
serve the
do is see
community,
if we
so
can
that-
schedule, what do you guys think? One workshop, 2 workshops to digest the budget? Superintendent Willis.
I took a look at what we did last year, and we met on March 28th, so I'm recommending that we meet on March 29th this year for our budget workshop date. We met at 6:30. Pizza was provided,
Yes.
and if that is the pleasure of the committee.
What'd you say, March 29th?
It was, it's a Thursday night, and that's what we did last time. We came together on a Thursday night.
Okay.
And
Does that work for everybody?
That'll be after the vote.
Yep.
That work for everybody? Okay.
6:30?
Is that the time, is 6:30 the time that you want, earlier?
Well, Karen and Mike are the two
I know,
that have
so
the
I-
most
I'm not
difficulty.
30 works.
Yeah,
6:30
I don't,
works.
They actually have jobs.
I
Everyone
can't,
has
I
a
can't do
job.
it,
Can't do it?
no,
On
no.
the 29th?
no.
Are we at another date? Are you gonna be away for a period of time, Mel? or
I have
just-
a meeting that night.
Okay.
Okay, let's
That's a Thursday. What's that, Wednesday?